Preston Guy, with Hunt every Friday. He was with me last Friday, and now again here this Friday. Of course, you can read his stuff over at tigerbait.com. Find him on Twitter X at pguy77. Preston, it's great to chat again, man. How are you?
Hey, good, Hunt. Thanks for having me here. I'm glad someone works on a Friday around here.
Yeah,
not Hunt.
no, not Hunt.
Someone doing the work.
Yeah, I mean, look, man, I assumed Hunt was back, just full bore, ready to go this week. And then on like Tuesday, I was like, hey, Moose, can you host? I'm like, yeah, sure, why not? So here we are. But, man, it kind of works out because the first thing we're going to talk about is AJ Haulcy. And, Preston, I'm sure you remember, I remember, when I sat here a week ago in this chair and talked to you, we were talking about transfer portal and them landing Bernard Gooden, and I'd asked you, okay, man, if there's one more position, what would it be? You said safety. Well, here we are. AJ Haulcy set to visit LSU on Sunday. What else can you tell us about the latest in this situation?
Yeah, I mean, I've been working around talking with people about it. I'm a little surprised to see this come up, especially at this point in the game, and hearing that LSU coaches didn't see anybody else in the portal that they thought to pull in. However, this is a position of need, and frankly, AJ was the one, or at least his agency was the one, who reached out to LSU thinking this would be a good fit. Now, he had 74 tackles, 5 interceptions last year, and he was actually first-team All-Big 12. But despite that, my understanding is that LSU coaches, they feel he's more of a depth piece. They want him to come in and earn a spot on the field. They don't think he's just the solution to all their problems at safety, and they think that the players they have currently are as good, if not better, than him. So they definitely want him, right, to come in and contribute and compete. But I don't know that they're willing to empty out any resources to bring him in. But it certainly would make you feel a bit more comfortable at that safety spot, given that you've got someone who's played well at the Power 5 level in there competing with guys for that spot.
Okay, so that's kind of where I was going to go next is where LSU views him on the depth chart. We come back to that. I know Miami was kind of in on this too. They just took a safety from Tennessee a day ago, so you would think that they're out. Who else might be competing with LSU for Haulcy, and how do they feel about where they stand in the recruitment so far?
Yeah, they feel like they've really kind of wired themselves for success with him. They're not out here just trying to be the biggest bidder. They really, they really feel like this is a good team and a place he wants to be. SMU is another team to watch out. That's his agency actually put out a top 3, which is a little strange to actually see someone else other than Hayes Fawcett put out a top 3 graphic. But that's who he's competing with. Yes, Miami is not the team you want to hear you're trying to outbid.
Right.
Miami has been known to, especially late in these portal processes, put a lot of money and overpay for a kid, right? So the fact that Miami went another direction makes me feel a lot better. I think LSU wants him. I think LSU fans are on the same page, though, when they say you want him, but you don't want to clear yourself out to where it's costing you a player, say, in next year that you really want to get him, or maybe even a high school kid, right?
Yeah. Has he visited SMU? Do you know?
I don't believe he has. No,
Okay.
I believe he's Miami and LSU. But what I believe is going to happen is I have a lot of confidence that LSU lays the groundwork. They're going to light it up this weekend, and I think that it's going to be more of a yes or no situation for LSU. Either I like you and I'm coming, or I'm moving on,
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, that's kind of the thing. It's what everyone always talks about with free agents in the NFL is when you get them in the building for a visit, don't let them leave without signing the contract. Transfer portal has become that as well. And when you get them on campus for a visit, you want them to commit, right then and there. So that's kind of why I was asking about SMU. Like, okay, if he's been there and he hadn't, they let him get away without doing it, and that just plays more into LSU's favor. Okay, well, we'll see. AJ Haulcy, of course, out of Houston. He will visit LSU on Sunday. That is this a multi-day visit, do you know, Preston, or just Sunday?
My understanding is that it's Sunday at least for now. I don't know if he'll be here past that date or not. But, like you were saying there, this isn't like a high school recruiting trip where you're waiting for a certain period to bring him in. You want to try to, if he's here, close the deal before anybody else gets a chance to talk to him.
Yeah. I mean, that's what they're going to be trying to do on Sunday. Okay, well, you said high school recruiting there. Speaking of which, LSU did get a commitment from Havon Finney Jr. out of California, 4-star cornerback earlier in the week. What can you tell us about Finney Jr.?
Well, I'm going to tell you this. He reclassified to the class of 2026. And when he was a part of the 2027 class, he was actually the number 1 corner in the nation. So that kind of shows you the talent potential. I always find it a little funny when a kid reclassifies. So you saw him as this high, 5-star number 1 player for this class, but he moves on. And is it that he's not developed, or is it that you don't think he will develop? Or is it that he's just not up to par with the other players right now? I'd really like to get in some of these scouts' minds for these evaluation services and figure out what they're judging that on. I guess famously Colin Hurley went from being a 5-star quarterback in his class, which was supposed to be this year coming up, 2026, and then moved up and got bumped down to, about, I guess, a top 15 quarterback instead of a top 3 or 4 quarterback. But he's still a 5-star on Rivals, I can tell you that much. So anytime any kid has a 5-star designation at any site, that's a good sign. We're talking about a 6'2", thin, long-armed corner. Corey Raymond loves these guys. Just look at DJ Pickett. Think back in the day, Thorold Simon, guys like that. He loves a long-limbed corner, and that's what you're getting. Of course, a little odd to pull a kid out of California. You don't see LSU going to the other LA to pull very many kids here, but that's exactly what they did, and it's certainly a good spot, and it bolsters their currently number 1 class right now that is 90% blue chip prospects. Actually,
I saw that earlier today, and I'm glad you brought up California, because that was kind of be my next question. I mean, look, it's the NIL era; everything's different with recruiting. Can they hold on to him?
Well, it's a great question. I guess if I had that answer, I would probably I'd probably know more than the kid himself at this point. Yeah. But I will just tell you the era we're in is, especially with out-of-state kids who don't have any rooting devotion for your team, anybody can come in with a lot of money at the last second. I would say the amount of flips and chain and decommitments that we're seeing in this era has probably gone up a significant portion. So I don't have a direct answer, yes or no, but I'm going to tell you right now it feels great, but it is a long, I guess, what are we, April? We're about 8 months away. It's a long 8 months away before ink goes to paper, and, I mean, money talks in this industry.
Yeah, I asked you that knowing that was probably going to be the answer, but it feels like one of those things after Bryce Underwood, you kind of just always have to ask now, wait, can they actually hang on to him? Okay, from an out-of-state cornerback to an in-state cornerback, let's talk Hayward Howard Jr. out of Edna Carr. I mean, look, Carr has obviously been incredibly good to LSU. It's kind of just been like a minor league, franchise for LSU football. Hayward Howard, he picks up an offer from LSU kind of late in the cycle for 2026, but it's hot and heavy now with him and the Tigers.
It's late, but it's also not late to the point of like, come on, man, I've got my official visits. I've already planned them out. You know what I mean? Like, I remember, Rashawn Matthews' kid, Jordan Matthews, a couple years ago for Woodlawn. Brian Kelly didn't come in and offer him till July. And, you talk to that kid, and it's like, man, I'm in the middle of scheduling my officials. And this is it. Like, I decided in December, you waited this long to give me an offer? No, you guys got some ground to make up. It's not like that. So they probably got in at a good moment. I can tell you we had Grant Shashery, one of our beat reporters here for Tiger Bait, do a story on him not too long ago, and he certainly has, an admiration of LSU. That being said, there's still teams you still have Miami there. You still have Ole Miss there pushing for him. And these are teams that were in on him earlier. So, LSU was taking their time evaluating him, seeing if he was a guy they want in. Another thing stands out to me, this kid's 6'2". another long, tall corner. That's what Corey Raymond likes to go for. So I certainly think he'd be a good fit in the program. I just wonder, how much interest might have been lost in the time that LSU was waiting and doing their evaluations on him.
We'll have to wait and see. I know that you're certainly starting to see a little bit more projections. As you would expect, in-state kid, New Orleans car. Like as we said, it's just been a feeder, for LSU, and they've had great success there. Talking with Preston Guy, of course, covers LSU football and recruiting over at tigerbait.com, so you can find his stuff. Of course, get him on Twitter X at PGuy77. Listen to him here every Friday on the Hunt Palmer Show. Preston, kind of want to step away from recruiting for a little bit because, what's interesting after the draft passes is it's not just, it's look at all the guys that signed. You're obviously your NFL team you're excited about, but you also have to then turn your focus on replacing the guys that your college team lost. The biggest one that LSU lost is Will Campbell, and those are huge shoes to fill. Tyree Adams going to get first crack at that. Confidence level there, and maybe a little bit about what you saw from him in spring, showing that he's maybe ready for that spot.
I'm not so certain that anybody on the offensive line should feel safe given what we saw in the spring where these edge rushers frankly dominated. In that spring open practice where they allowed fans in, I think we counted 6 or 7 sacks. I think that there's a lot of room for improvement across this offensive line. The thing that stood out to me is they went with all veterans for the whole spring practice instead of the incoming guys, that they brought in highly touted both transfer portal guys and highly touted freshmen. And we didn't see any of the newcomers even sniff the first team while we were there. It was very much so returning starters. I do think of the guys in their positions, and this is all 5, I think Tyree Adams is the one that the coaching staff has the most faith in. They really like him as a nimble left tackle. But, man, I wouldn't be surprised if that starting 5 that you saw in spring camp, if none of the 5 guys are starting in the position they're at. Of course, the most surprising would be Tyree Adams to be moved out of his spot. But it really, that wouldn't surprise me to see him move to another spot or see another guy hit that. It just, I think it needs some shaking up, and they have a lot of new faces that they were just getting put into the system and evaluating before they really injected into a starting role.
Okay, so if Tyree Adams would be the least likely to lose his spot, who would you – I'll ask it this way. Who would you not be surprised to see not on that starting 5 come fall camp?
Well, I'm going to tell you one thing that I almost expect to see is DJ Chester slid inside. So, again, I was saying in the spot that they're at.
Right.
That's kind of what I was getting at. That would be something like Braylon Moore, a veteran center from Virginia Tech. I could very easily see him slide in as your starting center and DJ Chester slide out to guard for either Mabinga or one of those guys, right? Weston Davis is a guy they really like his upside. They brought in Josh Thompson from Northwestern. They're currently working him at second-string right tackle, although he played guard for Northwestern. All of these positions, man, if any one of them you looked up and they weren't starting at where they were starting in spring, I would probably just – it wouldn't even be a click on the radar for me. It's like, oh, yeah, that makes sense.
We'll see, man. Look, it's the most interesting position for LSU heading into the season because you're replacing 4 starters. And outside of Garrett Dellinger, you had remarkable health on that unit a year ago as well. So, when you turn over that much and struggling to run the ball like they did, there's going to be a lot of eyes on that spot. And through spring, they ran out a lot of different combinations, not too much to glean. So it'll be a talking point throughout the rest of the summer and obviously through fall camp before they kick it off against Clemson on August 30th. He is Preston Guy. Read his stuff over at tigerbait.com. You can get him on Twitter at PGuy77. Of course, hear him every Friday here on the Hunt Palmer Show. Preston, we appreciate the time as always, man. Thank you.
All right, Musso. Nice talking with you. Thanks for taking the hard Friday shift nobody else wants.
Hey, man, somebody's got to do it. I don't mind. Let's have some fun for 2 hours, right?
Exactly.
All right. Thank you, Preston. We'll talk later.
Hey, thanks for watching Hunt on LSU. Before you get out of here, do us a couple of favors. Hit that like button. Leave your comments below and subscribe to the channel for all your Fighting Tiger football talk. See you next time.